Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Ria Tanwatco Trillo. Today on the program, a journalist group raises concerns over the police's unannounced visits to the homes of journalists. The Interior Department and PNP apologize for the surprise visits. And later, the PNP preparations ahead of this year's Undas. National Capital Region Police spokesperson Dexter Versola and National Union of Journalists of the Philippines Chairperson Jonathan De Santos join us live. Interior Secretary Ben-Hur has apologized to the media following the unannounced visits conducted by the Metro Manila Police. The DILG chief says there is no order to visit media practitioners in their private residences after the killing of radio journalist Percy Lapid.
Pasensya na rin dito, no? Although di ko ano to, pasensya na rin to the media. Sabi ko nga kay General na iba yung naging effect. Once bisitahin ka sa bahay, baka iba yung dating.
Over the weekend, several journalists shared their experiences of police in civilian clothing visiting their homes. The DILG vows to do better in safeguarding journalists. Let's go straight to the source of the story. NUJP Chairperson Jonathan De Santos is with us now. Jonathan, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning, Ria. Thanks for having us this morning.
First, we want to get your reaction to the apology issued by Interior Secretary Ben-Hur to members of the media following the surprise house-to-house visits last weekend.
Well, we're glad that they acknowledged that their unannounced visits or the unannounced visits by the police can cause anxiety, can cause more stress for journalists. Although we also acknowledge that, or we acknowledge that they did that with good intentions, possibly, but yun lang, there was a need siguro to establish better protocols for these visits, for these conferences.
Now, all of this started with a series of tweets of GMA reporter JP Soriano when a man in civilian clothing showed up and introduced himself as a policeman at his home. With the other journalists you spoke to, what was their immediate reaction? Was it fear, suspicion, galit? What have they told you?
Mm-hmm. Well, we had been receiving reports since last week that our colleagues had been visited by the police. Most of it was surprise, hindi naman anger, but it was just it's always concerning, I guess, even for non-journalists, for a police officer to visit you at home, and in some cases the journalist wasn't at home, so it was the mother who answered the visit, or who met the police. So yun then, it was more yung added stress for the family as well. Also, yung surprise. How do you know where I live, for example? I mean, it's not information that's readily available naman. So that's one question also. Like, where did they get our addresses?
Right, that is a huge concern as well. And unfortunately, as you said, this is not an isolated case. How many reports have you received so far or have reached you regarding this kind of practice by the police?
Over the weekend, it was 2, although there was a report of another visit somewhere in Tarlac, so medyo it's outside NCR na, but that also happened out. I think 4 or 5 have come out since JP reported the visit in his tweets.
So, now this has happened. DILG Secretary has apologized. They said they're going to stop this practice. What is your group's recommendation on how to further safeguard the welfare of journalists?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that, of course, the attention from the police, their concern for journalist safety is very welcome, and it's a good initiative to set up these dialogues. It's really just a matter of better coordination and maybe organizing these dialogues with the help of newsrooms or with press corps. We have a Philippine Plan of Action for the Safety of Journalists that was launched in 2019, and part of that really is setting up regular dialogues with security forces. So this might actually be a good start to that coordination.
What other changes or policies do you propose the government can carry out to better protect journalists?
Mm. Well, we like, for example, that they've been more proactive. They sent police officers to News 5, after Ed Lingao and Lord De Vera got a parang threatening tweet. So that's a good thing. Um, Siguro yun nga, quicker response to these threats. There's already an open line. They said that there's a hotline for journalists. So that's good. Um, but yun nga din, there is a tendency sometimes to um, para move on to another case without resolving yung mga pending na threats, no, or attacks. So siguro more attention on those cases or on those pending cases would help also deter future threats or future attacks on journalists.
So more follow through needed is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, you are in touch with many journalists. Have a lot of them been receiving threats lately?
I think the threats are mostly online, so we tend to, I guess, brush these off or not take them as seriously, no. But yung actual targeted threats, like through text, we haven't really monitored a lot of those. So it's more of online harassment, which is still a pretty serious issue. It's still a cause for stress for many of our colleagues.
Absolutely. And regarding the reporters last week who did experience those surprise visits by the PNP, can you tell us a little more, a bit about what happened to them and if they had any direct communication with the NCRPO?
From what I understand, these were unannounced. So the police officers just showed up at their homes. I think iba pa nga was during office hours, so no, they wouldn't be there to talk to the police. No, it was mostly that, and yung surprise at how they got the data, they got the addresses. No, parang I think they got it from the barangays. So ayun, there is some concern there, pa rin, na if they can easily get your contact details. No, parang the idea kasi is they would probably need like a written request to get your data. Pero yun nga, nabigay agad. So there's that. And yun nga, yung lack of coordination. There was, I was told that there were invitations given to press corps and press clubs. No? So that's a good start. And baka better to just hold those dialogues in groups na lang.
Right. So let's unpack a little bit about what happened. Naka-civilian daw yung nagpakilalang police in one of those incidents. Is this allowed? Can they come in plain clothes?
I suppose there is a tactical or there's a parang strategic value to doing that. No? Parang siguro to para hindi high profile masyado yung pagpunta sa bahay. But still, medyo concerning that they're doing police activities or doing police operations out of uniform. I mean, it's concerning enough, no, that a cop will go to your house. What more if they're out of uniform? And that could set a precedent for people who are pretending to be police officers going to your house, just showing an ID, and hindi natin alam what will happen next, diba?
Have you been able to establish who gave the orders? Because according to the DILG secretary, there were no orders. So do we know where this came from?
No, we're assuming that it's an excess of good faith or good. Parang they were too proactive in this case. Maybe they thought it was a good idea, pero we don't know yet where the actual order came from. And this is something siguro that the police have to explain. Like, how did that happen, or where parang how did they reach the decision to actually go to people's homes?
Right. And what's your take on, taking photos of the person being interviewed by the PNP?
Yeah, yun nga, that's a little strange. I get that it's part of documentation, and they do that, no? Parang they do post, kunyari, police doing checkpoints on their social media, no? Siguro to show that this is PNP at work, or that's also a way for them to show siguro their superiors that they did they actually did the visit and that they talked to the journalist, no. Pero it does sound a little bit like profiling. It could easily cross over to surveillance kasi actually the idea that there are plainclothes police officers in your area, parang ano na siya, it's close to surveillance na. So yung taking photos, medyo weird yun, like, yeah.
Right. Would you know if they've been able to identify the police official or officials who carried out these visits?
I'm not sure they got the names, lalo na, especially those who were yung moms lang na bisita, no. But actually, no, we were not sure if those people are actual police officers, no, which is another problem that these visits bring, no? Like people who claim to be police officers could go to your house and invade your privacy.
Yeah, that is very concerning. So for you, Jonathan, what exactly is all right? I think that is all that we have time for. But we thank you so much for your time here this morning. All right. Thank you very much, Jonathan De Santos. That was NUJP spokesperson Jonathan De Santos. We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Maria Tanwaco Trillo, and our guest right now, Metro Manila Police spokesperson, Police Lieutenant Colonel Dexter Versola. Colonel, thank you so much for being here. Sir, can we get your version of what happened last weekend with the reporters and those surprise house visits from the NCRPO?
Yes, Ma'am Ria. NCRPO would like to clarify and explain that the issue surrounding the effort to reach out media personalities derived from the incident that happened to Percival Mabasa. In our desire to prevent similar occurrence from happening, our regional director instructed the following. First is that to intensify o plansita on motorcycles without plate numbers. And number two, to reach out, engage, and kumustahin ang ating mga kaibigan sa media if there are threats upon them based on their profession. And the effort is without malice. It was based on good intention and genuine concern to protect the media personalities. Now, after the instruction of our regional director, the district directors then implemented the orders, and they already invited the friends from the media, the press corps, and conducted a meeting. And doon nga po, ma'am, sa mga hindi po naka-attend because of their busy schedule, ay nag-extra mile or nagbigay po nag-reach out po sila. That's why doon po sa hindi naka-attend ay minabuti ng ating mga kapulisan to visit them in their house. As to how did we get the address and the name, ay nagtanong lang po ang ating kapulisan doon sa kanilang nasasakupan sa mga barangay officials. And noon nga po naging it was taken on a negative side, ay pinestop na po ng aming regional director yung activity na yon, and he issued apology kung may naging intrusive yun sa privacy ng ating kaibigan sa media. But again, I would like to clarify that it was made sa intention namin na maprotektahan ang ating mga kaibigan sa media and to ensure na wala na pong mangyari yung kagaya po kay Percy Mabasa. Yun lang po Ma'am Ria.
Yeah. So done in good faith talaga ang sinasabi niyo, no? But sir, kung pwede, isa-isahin po natin yung nangyari. The police officers who carried out these visits, naka-civilian. Is this allowed during a police activity like this?
Yes, ma'am. Kasi may mga instances naman kasi na some media personalities wanted to cover their identity or gusto nila discreet lang ang pagkuan doon, ma'am, ay kaya naka-civilian. Kasi kung naka-uniform naman ay baka sabihin bakit may mga pulis na nandito sa lugar ko, pinupuntahan ako. And we want to give an impression naman, ma'am, na ang pulis talaga ay kakampi nyo. Hindi nyo po iyan kalaban. Kakampi nyo po ang inyong pulis. Andito kami para mag-serve. It is our mandate po na to serve the public with the best interest po na sana makita natin yung balance naman, yung sinasabi nga po na this lesson ay makita natin yung balance of personal security and the mandate of the PNP.
Now, sir, na-mention nyo kanina na these police officers were able to get the residential addresses of these journalists from the barangay. On the barangay's part, is that allowed na pwede lang sila magbigay ng address ng mga residente sa barangay nila? Without any written orders or warrants?
Yes, ma'am. I think ginawa naman yun, ma'am, na para lang malaman doon sa order nga po sa headquarters po na tanungin at kumustahin ang ating mga media. Kung nakita po na ito ay intrusion sa kanilang privacy, and yun po, ma'am, our regional director issued apology on that matter, and yun nga po, pinastop na po yung activity na yun.
Okay, and what about barangays? What instructions have they been given about giving out personal information like a civilian's address, for example?
Yes, ma'am. I think if this concerns the general public's interest o yung safety po ng ating mamamayan, ma-ensure natin na wala pong krimen na mangyari, sa tingin ko, ma'am, ay hindi naman po nagkamali yung barangay sa pagbibigay ng informasyon, kasi yung unang-una po sinabi ko, ma'am, ay with good intention po yung ginawa ng ating kapulisan na mag-reach out, tanungin, at yun nga, ma'am, just to serve po ang aming ginawa pong activity na yon.
Alright, earlier, Colonel, sinabi mo na there were orders from your regional head to intensify efforts in protecting journalists, particularly going after motorcycles without plates, and to proactively reach out to members of the media who may have received threats. So, who exactly gave these orders? That po came from the regional head, tama po ba?
Tama, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Hindi po nanggaling sa national headquarters, hindi po order ng aming chief PNP, but it was the order of our regional director. Yun po, ma'am, ang basis, kasi ayaw pong mangyari ng aming regional director yung incident na nangyari kay Percy Mabasa.
Right. Pero nung ni-release niya or ni-announce niya itong mga directives na to, did he give a specific outline on how should it be carried out?
It was an order, general order to kumustahin, bisitahin ang ating kaibigan sa media. So yung unang activity, ma'am, ng aming district directors talaga ay pinulong nila ang mga media personalities doon sa kanilang offices, sa kanilang conference room. Actually, kung makita nyo, ma'am, we sent pictures sana na para makita ng ating mga mamayan na there was an engagement, pagbisita sa National Press Club, sa mga press corps, sa mga kung saan nandun yung ating mga media friends, and then dun po sana left out na hindi nakadalo, ma'am, kasi alam natin na busy rin ang inyong mga schedules. Kung i-invite namin kayo, baka hindi rin po kayo pumunta kasi busy po kayo, ma'am. Ay, yun po yung dahilan, ma'am.
Oo, sa house to house. So I think these are the pictures that we're looking at, right? Of the dialogue and the conversations and meetings that were held between journalists and the NCRPO. So, Colonel,
Yes,
I think one of the things that happened during a house visit was photos being taken of the person being interviewed by the PNP. Again, just as a matter of information, is this something that's allowed also? Can a person say they do not want to be photographed?
Yes, ma'am. Polite naman po yung pag-request ng ating kapulisan. Iyan po ay it's just a degree of compliance or a show na talagang pumunta po ang inyong kapulisan na nag-comply kami sa order ng aming commanders. It's a proof or evidence na ipapakita namin sa after activity report namin. At kung ayaw naman po ng media, ma'am, ay hindi naman namin pinipilit yung magpa-picture.
All right. Now, regarding the officer or officers who carried out these visits, have you been able to identify them?
Yes, ma'am, may pictures naman po na pinadala at dito po nga po yan, ma'am, sa Marikina, ma'am.
Oh, okay, I see. Now, do we know where this officer or these officers are right now? And, what did they have to say about the reaction towards these visits?
As to the reaction, ma'am, nag-issue po ng statement ang Eastern Police District that it was done really to show our sincerity to serve, the genuine concern to protect the media personalities. It was done to at the highest standard of public service, ang sabi nila. At ang mandate nga po ay ginawa lang po nila yung kanilang trabaho na magsilbi sa ating mamayan, particularly the media, na kasama namin kayo sa mandate na public service.
Sir, last question on this topic, no? So, ano ba talaga po ang policy towards the protection of media workers on the part of the PNP?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, itong activity na to ay nagbunga lang sa pangyayari kay Percy Mabasa, kaya wala pang clear policy na ganito, ma'am. But basically, ang kondon, ma'am, is that different approaches po ang nangyari on the ground because of the operational environment sa ating on the ground is very much different. Iba po, ma'am, ang Metro Manila, dito po sa Visayas and Mindanao. So yun po yung approaches. Nasa call na po yun ng commander, ma'am. At kung doon sa approach ay hindi po na-appreciate ng iba at yung iba naman ay nagpahiwatig ng kanilang pasasalamat, ay nasa pangunawa na po yan ng ating mga mamamayan. At humihingi kami, ma'am, ng paumanhin and we will take this comment positively at gagawin pa rin po namin ang trabaho at makakaasa kayo na this will not demoralize us from doing our job.
Right. Colonel, binanggit nyo si Cap Percy and all of this came out of his murder. May update na ba po kayo tungkol sa kaso niya? Have you identified any suspects in his killing?
Yes, Ma'am Ria. Meron po kasing designated na spokesperson sa Special Investigation Task Group. So, I'm sorry, I cannot keep update on that issue, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So I was going to ask you kung may na-identify na kayo ng motive, but we will have to speak to that spokesperson for that particular case. So thank you for clearing that up. Colonel, let's talk now about your preparation for Undas. You have All Saints Day and All Souls Day happening in just about 2 weeks. How many police will be deployed for this?
Yes, ma'am. The PNP will be deploying around 10,000 police personnel all over Metro Manila. Excluding pa dyan, Ma'am Ria, yung ating force multipliers. Andyan po ang ating mga civic volunteer organizations, barangay tanods, security guards, and maasahan nyo rin, ma'am, that we will be deploying yung sinasabi nating mobile police outpost. Ang konsepto nito, ma'am, ay pinalagyan po ng gulong yung ating mobile police outpost na pwedeng ilipat sa strategic areas na kung saan ito na kinakailangan. As of now, ito po ay nakalagay dito sa Southern Police District para bantayan po ang ating entertainment area. And this is also in preparation, ma'am, sa pagpasok ng or the Burr months, the holiday season, ma'am.
Right. So far, Colonel, may tanggap na po kayo, if ever, ng mga security threats or wala naman?
As of now, ma'am, wala pa po kaming natatanggap na security issue that na dapat bantayan ng inyong kapulisan. And Ma'am Ria, can I make an announcement on Undas?
Yes.
Pagpasok po ng Undas ay nananawagan kami sa ating mamamayan na sana ay magdala ng kanilang protective gears during the Undas kung ano man ang maging weather. Magdala na rin po ng sapat na pagkain, tubig at mainam na rin na magdala po ng trash bags para hindi na rin po magdagdag sa mga lilinisin pagkatapos po ng observance ng Undas, and pinagbabawal po na dalhin sa ating mga cemeteries and columbariums yung mga gamit na pangsugal, alak, at loudspeakers. Bawal rin po yung mga sharp objects. And kung aalis man tayo sa bahay, ay mainam po na ihabilin sa ating mga kapitbahay na tignan din ang kanilang house para ma-ensure na wala pong masamang mangyari doon sa kanilang lugar. Yun po, Ma'am Ria.
Thank you for that, sir. Colonel, tungkol naman sa mga vax cards, magkakaroon ba ng checking ng vax cards pagpasok sa mga cemeteries and other sites?
Yes, ma'am. That will be in coordination with DOH at titingnan po nila ang kanilang vaccination card, and also siguro, ma'am, ay magdala na rin po ng face mask para ma-observe natin na wala pong transmission na mangyari during the observance of Undas.
Okay, so mask wearing will be required po ba sa mga cemeteries? I'm asking that, of course, because most cemeteries are outdoors, and for now, mask wearing is optional for outdoors.
That will be on the discretion ng mga ibang magpupunta, ma'am. Alam po natin sa columbariums, meron din mga closed areas kasi. It will be depend naman, ma'am, sa situation or sa lugar na kung saan pupunta.
Alright, lastly, Colonel, ano po ang gagawin sa mga protocol violators? Will they just be reprimanded? What will happen to anyone who breaks these rules?
Yes, ma'am. Kung doon po sa kwan, ma'am, ay mako-confiscate yung mga alak, baka ilagay po ito sa mga ibang lalagyan. Yun pong mga playing cards ay ipagbabawal at kukunin po, ma'am, at para hindi na po magkaroon pa ng untoward incident doon sa ating cemetery or columbariums.
Okay, so ma-confiscate yung mga gamit na yan. Colonel, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it. That was Metro Manila Police spokesperson, Police Lieutenant Colonel Dexter Versola. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.